Why was there no food during the Great Depression? There was a lot of food during the Great Depression. Unfortunately, it was either left to rot if plants or destroyed, and buried in it was an animal. When the Depression hit, no one had any money, so the market for meat, eggs and vegetables and fruit dried up instantly. Oranges rotted and fell to the ground in Florida because there was no market for them. Farmers couldn't even make enough to pay the people who picked and boxed them. In the Farm Belt, livestock was killed and buried in mass graves. Milk was added to the cow's manure and used for fertilizer, at least until the cows themselves became too expensive to feed and milk. They were then killed and buried in quickly dig pits. It was never an issue of how much food could be produced. It was an issue of keeping farmers in business, making enough money to keep from being foreclosed on by the banks. We have a similar problem going on now. With restaurants closed down, the market for eggs, meat and crops has slowed drastically. Many farmers have had to destroy livestock, including milk cows and chickens. There are simply not enough buyers for eggs and milk. During the Depression, the government finally apportioned money to purchase crops from farmers to redistribute to the people. The Trump administration has acted much more quickly this time, doing the same things. The effort is to not only get food to those who need it, but to shore up farms and the farm industry to ensure that there are no serious shortages ahead. Unfortunately, the government can't take the place of the private sector, and many farms will still go bankrupt. Unless you are a farmer, most people don't understand that the food they are eating now may have been planted over a year ago. Farmers must plant in season, understanding that it takes anywhere from 2 months for the fastest crops to reach harvest age to up to 6 months for some crops to reach maturity. To top that off, the crops must be planted in season. For example, if a farmer must plant in the spring in order for the plants to mature by winter, and he is 2 months late planting, then he won't be able to try planting it again until the next planting year, approximately 10 to 12 months away. Then the harvest won't be for another 3 to 5 months after that, depending on the crop and growing season. Now, if he has an unusually wet spring and early summer, he may not be able to plant that year either. Then he has 2 years between his last crop and his next one. I've heard commentators and bureaucrats with no understanding of how farming works blithely tell farmers to just stop milking their cows to dry up the milk supply. What these morons do not understand is that a cow is not a milk factory. When you stop milking them, they dry up and quit producing milk. The only way you can get them to produce milk again is to get them pregnant. The gestation period of a cow is approximately 283 days. So you dry up the cow when you stop milking it. You get it pregnant to start milking it, but it won't start milking until after it has the calf, which will take about 9.5 months. So once a cow is dried up, you won't get any more milk out of her for 3/4 of a year. And that's only if they get her impregnated immediately after drying her up. You see the time problem built into food production? Egg production faces similar hurdles. Baby chickens do not start laying eggs immediately after hatching. It will still be around 18 weeks before they begin laying, but it will be longer yet before they are consistent at it. So, the main problem for food shortages during the Great Depression was lack of money to purchase food. That led to a chain of events that drove the food producers out of business. It took a long time to come back due to the late action by the government. The Trump administration is faster this time around, but it cannot buy enough to replace what has been lost by the government-mandated shutdowns. The second problem we have this time around is that the middlemen, the packing houses, canneries, etc., are in short supply due to C-19 outbreaks among their workers. We get our meat from local markets, so we won't be unduly affected. Those in the cities may not be so fortunate. Made worse by poor soil management practices. During the first third of the 20th century, a lot of marginal agricultural land was opened up, and both the markets and government encouraged plowing of fields to plant more crops. In the 1920s, demand was strong and prices were high, so farmers pushed the soil to increase acreage and yields. When the Depression hit, many farmers responded by plowing harder and faster to try to grow more crops to make up for the decline in commodity prices. Then drought. But if that weren't bad enough, the rich soil, which had been plowed and plowed until it was literally the consistency of powder, was literally blown away by the wind. There was plenty of food. In fact, a surplus of food was one of the problems. Better technology allowed farmers to be more productive. When farmers are more productive, they produce more food. When there is a surplus of food, the price for food goes down. When the price for food goes down, farmers can no longer to pay the loans on their farms. When farmers can't pay for their land, they hit the road. So, ironically, a superproduction of food killed crop prices and put a lot of farmers out of business. Also, there were some bad droughts, and poor farming practices. So there was not so much a shortage of food, but a shortage of money to buy food.